The interviewer asked the question, simple question, easy question, the kind Sean Connery had answered 1,000 times before. How's Micheline? His wife, 45 years married, the woman sitting at home watching this interview live on BBC. Sean opened his mouth to answer, and nothing came out. Not a joke, not a pause for effect. Nothing. His face went blank, eyes searching, desperate. And in that moment, everyone in the studio realized they were watching something they shouldn't be watching. They were watching James Bond's mind break on live television. 15 seconds of silence. The interviewer smiled. Thought maybe Sean was being clever, setting up a punchline. But there was no punchline coming, because Sean Connery couldn't remember his wife's name. The woman he'd loved for 4 decades, gone, erased, and the cameras kept rolling. But here's what nobody knew. This wasn't the first time. It was just the first time anyone noticed. 3 years earlier. Sean woke up in the Bahamas, walked into the kitchen, saw a woman making coffee. Beautiful woman, familiar face. She said good morning, kissed him. And Sean's brain did something it had never done before. It failed to connect, didn't recognize her. Not for 5 full seconds. 5 seconds where he looked at his own wife like she was a stranger. Then it clicked. Recognition flooded back. He smiled, said good morning, pretended nothing happened. But Micheline saw it, saw the blank stare, the confusion, the fear, and she knew what was coming, because her mother had the same thing. Alzheimer's, dementia, the disease that doesn't kill you fast, it kills you slow, memory by memory, person by person, until you're walking around in a body that forgot how to be you. And now she was seeing it in Sean, the sharpest man she'd ever known, the man who remembered every line from every film, every name, every face. That man was disappearing, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. But Sean wouldn't admit it, refused to see doctors, refused to acknowledge something was wrong, because admitting it meant accepting it. And Sean Connery didn't accept defeat, ever. Not from studios, not from directors, not from the mob, and definitely not from his own brain. So he hid it, got good at hiding it. When he forgot a word, he'd pause, make it dramatic. When he forgot a name, he'd say, "My friend," instead. When he forgot where he was, he'd stay quiet, let Micheline guide him. And for 2 years, it worked. Nobody knew, not his kids, not his friends, not the press, just Micheline. And she carried that secret alone. Then came the charity event. Scotland, his homeland, the place he'd sacrificed everything to support. An old friend approached, someone Sean had known for 40 years. The friend said hello, used Sean's name, expected recognition, got nothing. Sean stared at him, blank, not pretending, not joking, genuinely didn't know who this person was. The friend laughed, thought it was a bit. But Sean wasn't laughing. He was panicking, internally screaming, searching his memory for this face. Nothing. Empty. And the friend's smile faded. Realized something was very wrong. Micheline stepped in, made excuses, pulled Sean away. And in the car, Sean lost it. Not tears. Rage, punching the dashboard, screaming. Because he knew his mind was betraying him. And he was powerless. That's when Micheline forced him to see a doctor, gave him no choice. The diagnosis came fast. Dementia, progressive, irreversible. The doctor said maybe 5 years before it gets severe, maybe 10. No way to predict. And Sean asked one question. "Will I forget who I am?" The doctor nodded. Eventually. Sean walked out of that office and didn't speak for 3 days, just sat on his balcony, staring at the ocean, and Micheline knew what he was thinking. He wasn't mourning his memory. He was mourning James Bond. Because Sean Connery with dementia isn't Sean Connery. It's just a confused old man wearing his face. And he'd rather die than become that. But dementia doesn't care what you want. It takes what it wants. And it started taking everything. Interviews became impossible. Sean couldn't trust his brain anymore. Couldn't trust he'd remember where he was, who he was talking to, what year it was. So he stopped appearing in public. His agent said he was retired, enjoying life. But the truth was darker. Sean was hiding, because the world still thought he was 007, sharp, dangerous, unbreakable. And he couldn't let them see what he'd become. Weak, confused, scared. But then someone convinced him to do one last interview. BBC, 85th birthday special, celebrating his career. Micheline begged him not to, said it was too risky. But Sean insisted, said he was fine, said he could handle one interview. And Micheline knew he couldn't, but she let him go. Because telling Sean Connery he can't do something felt crueler than letting him try. So he flew to London, sat in that studio, cameras hot, lights bright, and for 20 minutes he was okay. Better than okay, sharp even, talking about Bond, about Edinburgh, about his life. The interviewer was impressed, thinking maybe the rumors about Sean's health were wrong, and then she made a mistake. She asked about Micheline. "How's your wife? Still as beautiful as ever?" Easy question. The easiest question in the world. Sean had answered it 100 times, but this time something broke. His mouth opened. No words came out. He looked at the interviewer, looked at the camera, and his face showed something nobody had ever seen before. Fear. Real fear. Because he knew he should know the answer. Knew there was a name, a face, a person he loved more than anyone. But he couldn't access it. The file was corrupted, deleted, gone. The interviewer tried to help. "Micheline, your wife, Micheline." But Sean wasn't processing words anymore. He was somewhere else, lost in his own head, searching through memories that used to be organized and now were just chaos, random images, disconnected names, faces without context, and his wife's name was buried somewhere in that mess. But he couldn't find it. 15 seconds of dead air, the crew getting uncomfortable, the interviewer panicking. And finally, Sean spoke. "My partner, yes, she's good. Partner. Not wife, not Micheline. Partner. A word you use when the real word won't come. And everyone knew. The crew, the interviewer, the millions who'd watch this later. They all knew they just witnessed the end of Sean Connery. Not his death. Something worse. His erasure. The interview ended fast. Sean's people rushed him out. And back in the Bahamas, Micheline watched it live. Watched her husband of 45 years forget her name on television. And she didn't cry, just turned off the TV, sat in silence, because she'd been preparing for this moment for 3 years. But watching it happen, watching the world see what she'd been seeing in private, that killed something in her. Not her love, her hope. The hope that maybe they'd have a few more good years together. That hope died with that interview. Sean came home and didn't talk about it, didn't acknowledge it, just went back to the balcony, back to staring at the ocean. And Micheline sat next to him, held his hand, and Sean looked at her, really looked at her, and said something that broke her. "I'm sorry I'm leaving you." Not, "I'm sorry I forgot." Not, "I'm sorry I'm sick." "I'm sorry I'm leaving." Present tense. Because in Sean's mind, he was already gone. The disease wasn't coming. It was here. And every day, more of him disappeared. What happened next was worse than forgetting a name. He forgot his children. His son, Jason, visited. Sean called him by the wrong name. Jason corrected him. Sean got angry, insisted he was right. They fought, and Jason left and didn't come back for 6 months. Not because he didn't love his father, because watching your hero not recognize you is unbearable. Then Sean stopped talking altogether, not because he couldn't speak, because words didn't make sense anymore, just sounds, noise. So he stopped using them, communicated in gestures, grunts, and sometimes he'd have a moment of clarity, a full sentence, perfect grammar, and then 30 seconds later, gone, back into the fog. And those clear moments were the worst ones, because in those moments Sean knew what he was losing, and it destroyed him. Then he stopped leaving his room, stopped getting out of bed. Micheline would sit with him, read to him, play his old movies. And sometimes he'd watch. Sometimes he'd even smile, like he was remembering. But then the moment would pass, and he'd stare at the screen like he was watching a stranger. And Micheline wondered if he even knew that man used to be him. Then he forgot how to eat. Not a choice. He just forgot what food was. Forgot what to do with it. Micheline had to feed him, spoon by spoon, like a child. And Sean hated it. You could see it in his eyes. The humiliation, the rage. The man who played the most sophisticated spy in history was being spoon-fed soup by his wife. And he couldn't even protest because he'd forgotten the words for protest. October 2020. Sean's in bed, hasn't left it in weeks. Micheline's holding his hand, been holding it for hours, maybe days. She's lost track. And Sean looks at her, one last time, and his eyes are clear, just for a second. And he squeezes her hand, 3 times, the signal they'd used for decades. 3 squeezes. I love you. And Micheline squeezes back, 3 times, and Sean closes his eyes. October 31st, Halloween. Sean Connery stops breathing, Micheline still holding his hand. And the first thing she feels isn't sadness. It's relief. Relief that he's not trapped anymore. Not searching for memories that don't exist. Not looking at her like she's a stranger. He's free. But here's what breaks her. When they're sorting through his things, his papers, his journals, they find something. An entry from right after that BBC interview, written in handwriting that barely looks like his anymore. Shaky, desperate. It says, I forgot her name today. Micheline. I forgot Micheline. Writing this so I remember I forgot. So I know this is real. I'm disappearing. And I'm terrified. That was the last thing Sean Connery ever wrote, and Micheline keeps it in a drawer, not displayed, not framed, hidden. Because some pain isn't for the world. It's private. The way she carried his disease in secret for 5 years. The way she fed him when he forgot how to eat. The way she loved him when he forgot who she was. The world remembers Sean Connery as James Bond, the legend who couldn't be broken. But Micheline remembers the truth. She remembers the man who broke, who forgot, who disappeared one memory at a time, until nothing was left but a body in a bed. And then, not even that. The BBC interview is still online. You can watch it, and if you look closely, you can see the exact moment, 3 seconds. The moment Sean realizes his mind is gone. The moment James Bond dies. The moment the legend becomes human. And then, less than human. And then nothing at all. Micheline lives in the Bahamas still, in the house they shared. And sometimes she swears she hears him, walking the balcony, looking for something. She whispers his name. Sean. But there's never an answer. Because Sean Connery's gone. And this time, He's not coming back. Not in 5 years. Not in 10. Never. That's the real ending. Not a funeral. Not a tribute. Just silence. And an empty chair on a balcony. And a woman who loved a man who forgot her and kept loving him anyway, even when he didn't know who she was. Even when he didn't know who he was. That's not James Bond. That's not a legend. That's just human. And maybe that's the saddest part of all.